What's up, friends? Welcome back to another slightly lonelier episode of Fake Nerds Watch, talking about The Last of Us, as Ryan and I are now The Last of Us. We no longer have Phai with us for this one episode, and this one episode only.
He ate a bad mushroom soup. He's gone now. Sorry.
Yeah. We miss him, but we do have his thoughts with us, and we will share them throughout the episode. But it is today just me, Sparkz Woody, and my good friend Ryan Eliopoulos.
Hi, hello. We're here to talk about us.
We're here to talk about The Last of Us, and we're here to talk about episode 6, specifically episode 6, Kin. This was, I think, I'm just going to get rolling into it, a really good episode.
Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
I mean, like we talked about, I think, I'm pretty confident at this point that episode 4 is going to go down as, like, the low point,
the weakest.
And that's in like heavy quotation marks, because it's not at all that weak of an episode.
Yeah,
by a huge margin. All its weaknesses are purely foundational, and the next episode alleviates all of them.
Yeah.
So
and the problem that they created in the show was them trying to solve a problem from the game, where they were just faceless people you were killing for a long time. So like they were at least trying to do something that just, it didn't fully work, but I still liked those 2 episodes quite a bit, and I like this episode quite a bit.
It really does feel like any other adaptation would have tried to really keep the clickers and the infected more present than this show has.
It's really
they've really been reserved. Like when they're there, it's a big deal and it feels very impactful and important that they're there. But it is not a thing where it feels like they've had to really push them on us.
Yeah, it is interesting because, again, like, when you're adapting a video game to a TV show or a movie, like, you're not going to have as much action just because, you have significantly less time, and it's, kind of boring to watch someone just murder for 2 hours straight in a movie, right? That's not exactly thrilling entertainment. But like, for this to be a zombie adaptation, they really were like, it's like a lot of zombie things. It's not really about the zombies. Like, these zombies are particularly cool because they're like mushroom zombies, but again, it's really about the people, and like they had an opportunity in this adaptation to tell like a really beautiful story that's blossoming, and beautiful stories throughout in each little episode. I'm loving how they are adapting it. Like, with each episode, I'm like, man, this is great. I'm loving the ideas. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah. I agree with everything you're saying. I think this is our last like calm before the storm moment, in a sense of the like everything from here is like a whirlwind towards the finale.
Yeah, that's true.
Just based on like game knowledge. Granted, like there will be some like pulling back. I'm not saying we're all out of quiet moments. There will be quiet moments, but I think this was the last quieter episode.
Because like, just going off game stuff, like all the big beats are like things that are going to happen in the next couple episodes. Just going off how this episode ends alone, we know what the next episode is going to entail. So like, it is unfortunately not happy trails for our friends here, but it'll be entertaining to watch nonetheless.
Yeah, so let's dive into talking about the episode. I thought they made a really interesting choice to make sure that the audience didn't let go of Henry and Sam.
Oh my god,
this opens with the scene again.
Bang bang.
And then picks up 3 months later. And we can see that Joel is also severely being affected by the loss of Henry and Sam.
Yeah. Because his edges are getting sanded down by his relationship with Ellie. And then when something affects her so bad, like it's starting to affect him, because like that father mentality is just taking over. He can't help it. She's just too cute and too helpless, almost, in a way where he's like, he has to protect her.
And I do want to highlight the Indigenous representation at the top of the episode, which is really awesome that we have it. And it's one of my favorite scenes
too.
But before that, I actually want to focus on, just because we're in the topic of it, what they've done to change. They're filling in gaps that couldn't be filled in for video game mechanics, right? Like Joel has to the player has to stay on mission doing things. So you're not allowed to have the kind of the moments of contemplation that Joel's supposed to have in this episode, which has provided us with instead this decision to create panic attacks. That Joel's having panic attacks.
And it's because he's feeling for the first time in potentially since his daughter died, like really. He's finally like opening himself up, and like what that is doing is like, oh, it's allowing fear to take over now, and it's allowing him to be like, oh, I used to be able to handle everything, and I'm not that person anymore. And it's like physically affecting him. And it's like, it's rough because I'm like, oh man, like he already has enough to deal with at his age and in the apocalypse. Like now he's gonna start like having like almost like heart attacks because the situation. I'm like, man, it is an interesting wrinkle. I do wonder if that's one thing where it's gonna be a one and done episode thing, or those things will continue. Because I think if it's a one and done episode thing, I on reflection might not be as hot on it because it's like it is good for the moment, but like is that something that I'm just over it now kind of thing?
Well, I'll put it this way, like I don't think his health is going to get better necessarily, but like, will he still have panic attacks after this? There's not gonna like I suppose there is still room for like one, but like there's not a lot of room for him to have one.
I mean, he's in his current state. It's not,
I mean, like for certain audience members, Joel may or may not be making it out of this episode.
Yeah, in its current state, he's got a knife in his belly, or he took it out like
a bat. A broken baseball bat.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Right.
Yeah. So, but I would say like you and I have a vague idea of like where the story's going, and how much we're going to see, and I don't know that there's a lot of room left to really show opportunities for him to have a panic attack. I guess I can think of, maybe one
like near the finale. It's just one of those things where it's introducing a new character wrinkle, where I'm like, kind of like the Kathleen thing. Is this something that like is going to be fleshed out, or just like it's just a drama for this moment, and then like even if it's not going to show up again, I'm wondering like, is this going to add anything upon like reflection? Like, did we need the panic attacks?
I would.
That's what I think it was good, but overall, I'm thinking like because it's this one and done. I think it'll be a one and done episode thing.
So I would agree with you if the panic attack only happened at the beginning.
Okay, yeah, it happened a couple times.
But the important one to me is the one after he has the harsh words with Tommy.
Yeah,
and he steps out and he's having a lot of out of focus panic attack, and Pedro Pascal's blinking a lot, and then he stops blinking and he focuses because he sees a girl that looks like Sarah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I think
I did like those moments. I want to say I did like those moments. And
and I think that like it's serving the story in the sense of like where is he at, like what is happening to him. I don't think that like he needs to necessarily be cured of the panic attacks, like now everything's fine or anything like that. But I do think it's like stemming from a place of all of this, someone who has pushed emotion down and out of themselves for 20 years, and it all just kind of collapsing at once.
Yeah. With Tommy and then with Ellie.
Because in this period, it's losing Henry and Sam, feeling responsible, and also seeing the reflection of what happened to them happening in him with Ellie, and then that with Tommy becoming a dad, with thinking about Sarah because of it, and all of that just kind of zooming right in on each other. Not to mention Tommy brings up Tess in this episode and bringing that right back around after he's tried definitely not to think about it. And like all of that just kind of happening in that moment.
That's true. Like a lot of things are happening all at once.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah. And I think like for a person who's made himself kind of cold and dead to that, letting it all happen. I think this is the right approach in this moment to allow those emotions to have completely physically derailed him.
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
And if that doesn't necessarily visually come back around, I think it was the right beat now, but like there's a refocusing for Joel, I think, going forward in the story of like, okay, but what matters is what's right here.
This is like,
rather than like panicking about the what ifs, I need to focus on the what's real.
This was his coming to Jesus moment, basically.
Sure.
Yeah. Because it's just like, it's so much is happening at once. So that makes sense. I really do love, real quick, going back to that opening.
Yeah.
Just really funny. That married couple that's living out in the woods. Joel's like, oh, you guys came and ran to get away from people. He's like, I've been here since before you were born, man. Like, this is my home. You came to my home.
Yeah.
And his wife is just, no, yeah, nah, yeah. This is so chill, so cool. Made him soup. Like I was, just because of the show, and like I was expecting a different interaction from the beginning, but then once I knew Ellie was there, I'm like, oh, he's not gonna do anything with Ellie's there. And then it's just a cute little interaction.
I also think like, is again, like coming out of that previous episode, which is, let's go back a little before Henry is killing the old man he didn't want to.
Yeah.
Who was the sniper.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
We were going to be in that situation again.
Yeah.
And after what happened with Henry, he was just going to Joel was just going to go back to being in angry mode. Like,
right.
And I'm glad it wasn't that.
Yeah.
I'm glad there wasn't like a regression.
Right. I agree. And I think it's very much a, I just want these answers. Tell me the truth. And we're, it's all good.
Yeah.
And so I do like Pedro Pascal does this like relief when he points at the same spot on the map. And he's just like, he lowers the gun, he settles in. He's just, kind of overwhelmed by the moment.
Yeah. Did you tell him the truth? Are you telling me the truth?
Yes.
It's just, that's great.
Yeah.
Saying a lot by saying little. A great couple actors.
I forget his name off the top of my head, but he's constantly used as a elder indigenous character in a lot of pieces, but he's really talented.
He's really recognizable. Yeah.
Yeah. He was just in, I didn't see it yet, but I know he was in Antlers.
The spooky movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With the Wendigo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's really great.
She steals the rabbits.
They're both good. Ellie's also kind of recognizing Joel's trying to put some distance up.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not down with it.
She comes running downstairs with the gun.
Yeah. And then we get to, so I was very much in my head, like wondering, are we even going to see the dam? Are we going to spend time at the dam? We see the dam from a distance, which is a nice, like, acknowledgement of the game.
Yeah.
But we're actually going to the town.
Yeah.
So Neil Druckmann was talking about it on the podcast behind the scenes episode, and he said that like the original intention of the game was for it to be like this, like what it is in the show. They were supposed to be in the town. It was budget and time.
That makes sense.
And so they turned it into the dam, and that's why Tommy like heavily talks about what's happening in the town. Like it's movie night tonight. Well, now it's actually, you get to see that. It is in fact movie night.
I did go back because like some lovely people on Twitter and like other, big gaming websites do like a side by side of like, here's what's different in game stuff. And this whole section is you going to a dam and fixing it.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, thank God we didn't do that.
Right.
Oh my God. I don't care if it was great character work. I don't want to see them fixing a dam for having it.
I kind of wondered in the back of my head, like when the season started, I'm like, what are we going to do at that?
Are we just going to skip the dam?
But that's where you meet Tommy. And so I'm like, how are they going to do that? And I just didn't see like, oh, they'll just put them in the town. Yeah. But it makes perfect sense, especially when Neil Druckmann explained that, like, this is what we wanted it to be in the game, because it is supposed to be what it is in the show, which is the sense of this is what you can have.
Yeah.
This is what's possible. Come away from the path that you're walking on, and this is what's possible. This is living in this world.
Yeah. And I guess it's technically game spoilers, but it's like it is like a retroactive thing for part 1, where this town is the major town that isn't also in part 2. But
you hear about it.
You hear about it.
Tommy and Maria are talking about it.
Yeah, you just don't see it.
But you just don't see it.
Yeah, but
now you see it.
And it is the exact like layout from what the game looks like. Like the big, like I haven't been to Jackson myself or whatever, but like the big, like, like big wide open street and towns and all stuff. Like that's what like that game looked like. I'm like, man, they did the movie thing and everything. Like that's, again, like they're doing a lot of like Last of Us 2 setup to make it all work when you get to that second season in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's just really smart and cool.
Yeah, it's very smart. It makes a lot of sense. I do think, like, just as they pointed out, like, this was the original intention of how it's supposed to feel in the game, that you're supposed to kind of be. And this was the thing that I thought about, like, because in my brain, I remember playing the game and, like, because you're at the dam, you don't feel like you're safe.
Yeah.
You're not really safe. You're with Tommy, but you're not really safe. And being in the town, like, they wanted you to feel a sense of like, this is about this and not about like, don't be looking around the corner. Yeah. You're safe here.
Yeah. This is like, it's not false security.
Right.
It's real security.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really valuable. Like even going to Bill and Frank's place, like this is something else. This is actual community. This is actual home.
I don't think, they don't have like trip mine flamethrowers around their vicinity.
But like they're functionally building a society together.
Yeah.
And that's something that Bill was not interested in.
Yeah, Bill, I'm sure Frank would have loved it.
Yeah. Frank would have loved Jackson.
Yeah. It's great. Joel and Tommy's first interaction together, it's really heartwarming and sweet.
Yeah.
And Tommy's like, what are you doing here? Joel's like, I came to save you. I'm like, oh, Joel, you're the one who needs saving, my guy.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Which again, like informing very much on like his perspective of who Tommy is in comparison.
Which we talked about in a previous episode.
Yes. Yeah. And like, I do think that comes to an amount of fruition here where like, this is, you get the sense that, especially when we get to the scene later where he's doing the pleading with Tommy for him to take Ellie, that this is Joel acknowledging you're more capable than I am. And I don't think he's ever been able to accept that because he's always felt like I have to be the most capable because that's the only way I protect you.
And he's like the older brother.
And I have to know best.
Yeah.
And I have to be right because I'm the oldest.
Yeah. It is my responsibility.
Right. And like we're seeing him finally be like, I think I'm not right for this.
This is probably, I haven't seen everything Pedro Pascal has done, but this probably might be like his best performance that I've seen at this episode. When he's breaking down to Tommy and he's talking about like that he fails in his sleep and he doesn't even remember what's happening, but he fails in real life and he fails in his dreams. Mm-hmm. And Pedro's just like crying his eyes out in front of his brother who he came to save. And like he knows he's like a defeated person. It's like one of the most tragic things I've ever seen. And I'm like, he is so good.
Yeah.
This dude, and like I just think of like, I love the Mandalorian. They put him behind a helmet the entire show. Like, let that man speak. Let him breathe. He's so good.
Right.
Man.
Yeah, I really do think he's given an incredible performance. I think that scene, you're right. I think that, you know, it's going to be the standout. I think it's going to be probably one of the scenes a lot of people go back to reference, like between that and the scene with Ellie in the room later in the episode, that it's going to be like these are like the highlights of his performance. But I do think that Pedro Pascal's performance in this has been so good as Joel because Pedro Pascal has been doing so much while saying so little.
Yeah.
He's doing so much, like one of those performances where you see 5 emotions happen across his face so often at different points in the show. It happens here, but it happens in every episode that he's doing that. And that's why I think like his performance as Joel is going to remain like one of the best, because he's just going through a range that you are clearly feeling with him without him saying all the words about what he's feeling anymore, if any at all.
Yeah. I was calling him a rocket raccoon during this episode just because like he can't help but like push everyone he loves away. Because he just knows, like, oh, you know, if they stay around, like, they'll just end up getting hurt, and I'll get hurt, and all that stuff. And like, he's like, maybe Tommy's like, because he finds out, or he tells his brother that he's gonna be a father. Like, maybe we'll find out if I'm a good dad. He's like, yeah, I guess. Like, what?
Yeah.
I audibly was like, I cannot believe you said that, Joel.
Right.
Like, what an ass. I can't. And even Tommy's like, you kidding me, bro?
I'm really glad Tommy calls it in that moment.
Yeah.
That he's like, what? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And Gabriel Luna, that's his name, right? Yeah. Who I admittedly haven't seen, I don't think since he was Ghost Rider.
Terminator.
Thank you. Oh, dude, he was so good in Terminator. Mostly like not talking, but he kicked a lot of ass. He's so good in this. He's also given a great performance. And to see his older brother to be where he's at, and him being like, Joel, I understand you're going through a lot of shit, so I'm gonna let you slide on everything, on all the transgressions you just said to me. But like, what are we doing here? Why are you here? And that's when Joel gives like the speech of like, yo, she's immune. She's been bit for months. She's fine. I'm weak and I'm old. I need you to do this for me.
Right.
And Tommy, being the good man that he is, with being a father on the way, you know, he's married to a wife, he's got a community, he still will do this for his brother. And I'm like, man, that is
well, and Joel's not wrong.
No.
Right? Like in the sense of what he says to Tommy to try and push him to go is, you're gonna be a dad and you could bring them into a better world.
Yeah. With this
cure.
Yeah.
And he's like, I do think there's an amount of Joel, like it is him wanting to emotionally separate before he gets hurt. That's true.
Yeah.
But it's also true that Joel's like, I'm afraid I'm going to be the reason she's going to die.
She won't make it.
And then it's all sunk and it's all because of me. And I'm going to screw this up. And he's like, I'm afraid I'm going to fail. I'm afraid of this failure.
Yeah.
And he believes like, you know, Tommy, you have a better shot. You have a better shot of making this happen.
Yeah. I love the multiple conversations they have, but like, Joel talking about, oh, the things that we did, you know, we did them survive. And Tommy's like, yeah, I know, Joel, but like, we didn't have to kill all those people. Not really.
Right.
And that bums me out. That's why I left. And I'm like, hey, I get it. I get it.
There were other ways, we just weren't good at them.
Yeah.
It's a great line.
Yeah. We're just regular folk. We're contractors. We're cool contractors. This was
we're people who are good at violence.
Yes. Yeah.
Like we are. We are people who are good at violence.
Yeah.
And so that was the way we chose to survive. But there were other ways to do it.
bookending, like there's really great, like funny, lovely stuff at the beginning of this episode and the end of this episode with Joel and Ellie, of them, like bantering and like feeling like father-daughter stuff. But yeah, most of this episode, the middle is the great drama. But Ellie gets to like go to the movies, see other kids, like see what the real world was kind of like.
So really importantly, I think this is something so valuable about doing the show, and the show version of this is because in the game, Ellie goes off with Maria just like she does here.
Mm-hmm.
And then she comes back to Joel later, and then she's heard about Sarah. But we didn't see her learn about Sarah. We didn't see the interactions going on between her. We get all that information secondhand through Ellie.
Yeah.
And I think like seeing the scene here and seeing Ellie go through these beats is really nice.
And having, that is a great point. And also seeing more of Maria, right?
Mm-hmm.
She is not a pivotal character, but she is a side character in the second game because she is, I guess, still a community leader in Jackson,
right?
5 years later with Tommy and stuff. So like giving her more stuff to do is just even sweeter for the next season where she will be in. It's just, again, like they're really good at setting stuff up and having a payoff.
I want to backtrack a little and talk about the dog.
Yeah.
Which is where they're like, the dog will sniff out the infection and they don't know.
That was so tense.
Yeah.
Man.
That was really good.
I mean, I knew she wasn't going to get hurt or anything, but I actually didn't know what was going to happen. Like, I could have figured, like, he was going to have to expose, like, the truth there or something. Like, I honestly didn't know what was going to happen. It was really good. But, yeah, dogs are cute. Man's best friend.
Yeah, there's a point where, like, I knew, like, it just had to be fine because if Joel kills this dog, then these people are going to kill Joel.
Yeah.
Like, there's no scenario, and, like, the dog's not going to kill Ellie. So, like, there's really no scenario that isn't just the dog's not going to, like, me video game brain knowing.
No, I get it. Yeah,
but, like, it was so, like, especially because they focus on Joel as you hear the dog approaching.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good choice.
And then after that whole scenario, but the guy's like, all right, you got 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Like all that tension for 10 seconds. Yeah.
Maria knows exactly who he is.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was great. Oh, like her and Ellie are really snarky. She gives her like what was it, like what color? Purple? What was it, like eggplant? Like a fucking eggplant colored.
Yes, your super eggplant coat. Yeah.
I love it. That's straight from the game too. I love that. Yeah, like all the additional stuff. Like it's really great. I'm loving it.
The production design on this episode looks really great. It has the entire time, but like seeing this town brought to life like this, I'm like, this. God,
yeah.
Like again, like it's just like the goddamn game.
Yeah, I don't know if they, like again, I don't know if they just went to Jackson and they just used Jackson, or they built a set, or they like used the volume or anything. But like whatever they did, like this whole show has looked great. This is probably the easiest one to replicate because it just looks like kind of like a town with it's cold out and shit.
Right.
So like, who knows? Maybe that was just Jackson. I've never been there. Wyoming. They got a dam there.
Sorry, I'm just trying to see who, because it's something I wanted to do, who directed the episode, because I know like it's a foreign film female director.
Okay, yeah.
Who's like really talented. She's known for like, they were talking about on the podcast that she was known for doing like set in the middle of war film. This is something that like got a lot of attention this last year.
Okay.
And so they originally pitched her doing the previous 2 episodes.
Okay.
To be right in the middle of all this conflict. And she was like, I have zero interest in doing that. I want to do this episode.
I respect it to just say like, hey, HBO, nah, I'm not interested. But they're like, okay, what about this one though? That's awesome. And this was still a great episode. Just, all character stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I really like this one. I think they do a good job. Craig Mazin talks about it on the official podcast with Druckmann, where he's saying like, one scene that I was adamant, like Mazin saying, I was adamant that we do pretty much exactly 100% the same, is the Joel and Ellie confrontation scene.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, that was one of the most, he's in his mind, it is the like emotional point and peak of what the game gives you. It is the thing that drives all of your engagement with it. It is the like thesis of why the game connects with its audience.
Yep.
And he was like, that just has to be, it was perfect when it was there. We need to just recreate it.
Again, like I watched like a side by side of that scene, and it is almost exactly like there's like very like like tone changes here and there, but like it's pretty much the same dialogue and everything. But I actually got like really emotional during that scene, and I've played this game multiple times, and like I knew the scene was coming, but like seeing it, just again those performances, like they're so real. You don't know loss.
I'm going to try and pronounce this correctly based on when they said it on the show, but it was Yasmila Zabanik.
Awesome.
Directed this episode, which was written by Craig Mazin.
I love it. Man, Craig's right. Oh, he's killing it.
He wrote all of the episodes, and then the first one he wrote with Neil Druckmann.
Love it.
And then Neil Druckmann alone writes Left Behind, next week's.
Oh, that's fun.
And then Craig Mazin writes the last one after that, the second to last one, and then the finale is both Mazin and Druckmann again.
Love it, man. Yeah. Hey, if you're watching The Last of Us and you haven't watched Craig Mazin's last show, Chernobyl, he wrote and directed that show too. It's The Last of Us, but it's based on a true story, so it's actually horrifying. Chernobyl, great show. Back to zombies though. Did we see any zombies in this episode?
No.
Awesome.
No infected.
Love it. I love that. Like I don't see people complaining about that at all.
No. I again, like, I think that I think the infected are more impactful, especially in a world like, if we're being like completely in our cultural context, like for a television show that exists this deep post Walking Dead, to be reserved with when you unleash your infected and the impact of that moment, I think is really smart.
Ooh, they brought up the River of Death. And I definitely thought, oh, this is when we're getting stalkers. There's still one more enemy.
I could feel you thinking that, and I was like, and that's why I was also in my head like, how much are we going in the dam? Are they in the dam? Is that what we're doing?
Still not yet, and they're probably not even in the season. I don't care, but like every time they bring up water, I'm like, ooh, death, ooh, that's.
But like the concept of the River of Death is really cool, and like the way that they're told about it at the beginning of the episode, and then how it turns out. And I really love
a bad reputation doesn't mean you're bad people.
That's the line. You're not. A bad reputation doesn't make you a bad person.
Because like honestly, that's how I would be in the apocalypse. Like I like to consider myself a good person, but like I would make sure I would scare all the bad people away, so like our little community would be safe. Right. I think that's perfectly smart. Because you can't be, unfortunately, in the apocalypse, you cannot be welcoming to everybody. That's just like that's how bad things happen. And it's. To have a reputation of it being a river of death, and it's actually a beautiful community where children watch movies every night. That's okay. That's worth the admission.
Another thing about being in the town that I think is valuable in comparison to the game, and I really, really like the way they handle it in terms of like Joel's own trauma that he's processing in the moment, is that it's Christmas.
Yeah.
And they're putting up Christmas tree stuff, and Joel has a memory that we only see hands of putting ornaments on the tree with Sarah.
That's true. Yeah.
And I thought that was really good.
That's really sweet. Yeah. And it's very subtle. Like if
it would have been easy to have Nico Parker back for a small flashback, but I think it's more impactful by not seeing her face.
Yeah.
It makes you as the audience, like Joel, wish you could see her again.
Yeah. And just like the moment outside when the girl's with her daughter, 20 years later, like she would have her own daughter that age or whatever, right? So like, yeah, Joel's just
the life he could have that he doesn't. Yeah. I think that's really well executed.
The line that Tommy says that he apologizes for after, but it's like, just because like your life stopped doesn't mean mine had to.
Right.
That is devastating.
Yeah.
That is like the most devastating thing you could say to somebody. Like, oh my God.
But like also very impactful that it shows how much Sarah like weighs on Tommy's mind too, because he puts her on the chalkboard just like
that is so
Maria's kid,
Kevin. Yeah.
So he thinks of Sarah just as much.
Yeah. That is a good moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way Ellie responds, like when she finds out about Sarah,
that was a good way for her to find out.
It's like so shocked.
That was a good way for her to find out too, because we didn't know how Ellie found out. So the fact that she sees that and brings that up to Maria, and she says, "I'm sorry about your kids," and she's like, "Actually, Kevin's mine, but Sarah, that was Joel's."
And she's like, that explains everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, oh yeah.
And Bella Ramsey's doing really good acting in that scene in particular too, where she's just kind of quietly processing without like, she doesn't fully trust Maria. She doesn't like the way that Maria sizes up Joel.
Yeah.
And that makes her really defensive of Joel right away. And so she doesn't want to give anything away.
Yeah.
Emotionally, like how that information affects her.
Yeah.
She plays it very straight, and like because she even says like Tommy killed people, and she's like, no offense, but I'm pretty sure I'm smarter than Tommy.
Yeah, that is pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, because like it's been 7 years since that community was established, so they've been together for a long time. So like, yeah, like she knows the things Tommy did. And again, like it's the apocalypse. Like there's no excuse for terrible things, but like, it's a fake apocalypse. So
Right.
people can be better than the bad things that they've done.
Yeah.
But when you like, I'm sure Maria, when she hears about Joel, she's like, wow, that guy's a psychopath. I do not want him near my daughter or my son. That's why she cut communication off for her from Tommy. I'm like, oh, that's a little messed up though.
Joel, a little messed up. Sure to her, Joel sounds like a man who's like his only way to survive is violence.
Yeah.
That to his mind, that is the only way to live.
Yeah.
In this world. And that she's like, I don't want to subscribe to that belief.
Yeah. When Joel's like, Tommy's like, we don't want to have the wrong people come to town. And Joel's like, oh, so like me, am I the wrong type of people?
Right,
is that why you cut communication off of me? I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, this is too spicy, guys. Just go get a beer, please.
Right.
It's the apocalypse. Be friends.
And like Joel's slightly in the right. Like it is a bummer that Tommy just stopped rather than leaving like a last message of like, I'm fine.
That's
the whole thing is like, I get it. Like also, it's Maria being nervous that Joel would come there. But like, honestly, if Joel doesn't think Tommy's in danger, would Joel leave? Especially with Tess still there.
That's a good point, actually. Because like dropping communication is a
because like coming and living in a community isn't necessarily the thing Joel was looking for at that moment in time before Ellie, before all this.
That's true. He went because he thought his brother was in danger. That's a good point. Yeah. If you could have skipped like one final like, hey, and
that's one of those things that you kind of expect Tommy to know better, because like Tommy should know Joel well enough, and like I think there's a solid argument to be made that Tommy does know Joel well enough and knows that if I drop off communication, he's going to come here, and he's like, then he'll be part of this. That's the only way I'm going to get him here.
Yeah.
But he didn't expect Ellie as well.
The Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah.
That
he was like, if I could get Joel here, then he'll live here. He'll grumble about it, but he'll be here.
That's a good point. Like Joel's going there, but like Tommy's, that's actually like double agent shit.
It wouldn't surprise me. Like Tommy knows Joel. He knows him well enough that like, if he thinks you're dead, like in trouble, he's coming.
Yeah. That's a great point.
And like Tommy would know, like cutting off communication with no explanation is going to bring Joel here.
Yeah.
And maybe that was the goal, except he showed up with a girl, which wasn't expected.
Who might have the cure to the apocalypse or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So Joel asks Tommy to do it, and Tommy says yes, like the great guy that he is. And there's a beautiful small moment when Tommy enters like the movie barn again, and he looks at Maria. They don't even talk. He just gives her a look. She knows.
Yeah.
She immediately knows. Just by his like, yeah, I'll see you in a couple months, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Tommy's great. This is probably like the one and done Tommy show until he shows up again.
And there's a thing where like, again, kind of in the Henry and Sam category, there's a different version of how this story ends if Tommy's allowed to tell Maria, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Tommy and Maria, or at least Tommy goes with Joel, with Maria's blessing.
Yeah.
There's a version where they both go, and this whole thing plays out differently.
God, could you imagine? It's like we're rewriting the entire ending. Like,
I mean, I'm just saying, but like even without changing, like not necessarily that I want to see that, but I think that it's giving you the clear indication you know enough about these characters and you have enough information in front of you to say, like, if Joel were willing to recognize that Maria is part of, like, if he weren't so defensive of what is my tribe, and he were willing to recognize Maria as part of it and give her Tommy's trust is enough for me to trust, there's a different conversation about what happens after that. And if Tommy does go with Joel or not, because this becomes more important, and this becomes like Joel needs to come back.
Yeah.
And Ellie needs to get there. And
Maria would see that like Joel isn't like he's trying to do something good.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that ending goes a different way than what we know it will be.
Yeah.
So
live happily ever after.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to think about like how these different like character turns, which I think are there in the game, but I think there's so much more prescient in the show.
Yeah.
To create these divergent paths where, if you'd zigged instead of zagged, who knows?
Yeah.
Because it does become a matter of like Joel's concerns about his own well-being and being able to protect her are valid. It's like, wouldn't this journey be better with Tommy by his side?
A younger, fitter, more active companion. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
It's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, almost certainly, like what goes down at the end of the episode doesn't play out the same way.
Yeah.
For damn sure.
Tommy wakes up. He goes to get Ellie to go on the journey. They go to the stables. And look who's there.
Mhm.
Look who's there. It's Joel.
Oh well, we're skipping over the scene that's basically the scene from the game. I do want to pay a little more lip service
sure, absolutely, of course.
of the Joel and Ellie confrontation, and the like. If you're gonna leave, then just leave me. They talk about how a fun fact, like from the official podcast, when Ashley Johnson was recording Ellie's lines, by the time they got to the one that was like the final one they did, the performers were so in the moment. She says, everyone except fucking for you.
Mm-hmm.
Or however, she puts like the F word in a weird spot.
Yes.
Because of the emotion that Ashley Johnson was feeling in the moment, the F word came out like not in a way
everybody
that would ever
fucking
write the
except
sentence.
for you.
Yeah. Everyone fucking except for you. Exactly. And that word stays there on purpose for Bella Ramsey's because they were like, that's so important that like that came out of the raw emotion of the performance, and it's one of the like you feel that, and so Bella Ramsey had to also incorporate that because both Bazin and Druckmann were like, that's real. That's, you know, you don't speak well when you're wrapped up in emotion like that, and so I think bringing that over, and Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal both make the moment their own, while that is like the closest one-to-one scene of the entire show to the game, and it sounds like it will be for the whole thing. Is like the closest you're ever going to get to an absolute one-to-one is going to be this.
Yeah. And it's a lot easier when it's, you know, like just two people talking as opposed to like a Secret Wars panel where there's 49 superheroes fighting each other. Like, you know, it's easy to adapt something really beautiful and poignant.
There's a line that like the fan base loves where Joel says you're on mighty thin ice. Yeah. And they said having Pedro do it, even just like they said, they took out the word mighty and said even with thin ice, like it felt forced. Like they were forcing the line out of him, so they decided like we don't need it.
I mean, I think that's a great line, but like without that line, like the performance is still exactly.
No, absolutely. They just like they talked about like there's like very minor changes. They tried to keep it as like so accurate, and they were like, you know, that what Pedro was giving, just it felt like he was being pushed to have that line in, which is what they were doing to like see, can you do, you know, put this in because it's there in the game, and it just wasn't working. It didn't feel right.
And again, like you brought up like how he can change his like emotions 5 different times. Like that's one of those scenes when like she brings up Sarah and he goes from like, you know, kind of sad he has to leave to immediate anger of like, no,
you see the wall.
No,
you see the wall come.
Yeah, you're like oh my god, it's incredible. Like no more. None of that.
You see him make the full decision of like that's the like passing from sadness into anger of like when you're trying to the awful scenes where you're trying to make like an animal abandon you. And like doing the like I don't even want you anymore. Like you fully cross over the line into sure, fully cross over the line into no, we're done.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
absolutely,
You were bringing up Tommy. You know what? Real quick, I know Phai has a note on this one for sure, so I'm gonna highlight it.
Friend of the show, Phai.
Yeah,
currently on vacation.
Phai usually hosting with us.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for it, but the horse is
Shimmer.
Ellie's horse.
Yeah, Shimmer.
Yeah, from the beginning of Last of Us 2.
Yes, I do. I was going to bring that up when we got to it, but absolutely, yeah. That is another great Last of Us 2 thing where like she's gonna grow up with that
which
horse.
Is a different horse than the one that we have in Last of Us Part 1, which I only know because I was playing Left Behind last night.
There you go. Which I will be doing next week.
And they said the horse's name, and I'm like, that's not Chip.
That's the spoilers for that horse.
We'll go through our wrap up, and then we'll read through some of Phai's stuff and we'll respond to it.
So
Tommy in the morning was ready to go, and Joel was I was fixing up this horse to leave, and then
he's like, I'm going to steal it.
Yeah. It just got away from me.
Yeah, he said to Tommy like, I was going to steal this horse, and he's like, you know, I just would have gave it to you. I'm like, yeah, probably. That's cute. I love that Joel's trying to be sneaky about it, but like, I don't know, you know where they were going to be. You did this on purpose. You did it to be a little cheeky.
We are going to talk a little later about Joel's wording. I feel like you deserve a choice, and how that plays into stuff later in the show.
Yes.
We'll talk about that in game spoiler section.
Yeah.
So I don't want to sit on it too much, but definitely we're going to get into that. And then
they go on the sweet little road trip for a bit.
Joel's turned the corner completely. This is his adopted daughter.
It is full on dad mode, talking to her about football. It is like
teaching her to shoot.
Yeah, it is full,
having
like
fun with her.
Yeah.
He's gone completely over on the other end.
Yeah. Man, just going back a little bit after like their confrontation, Joel goes back to his room, and he just like looks the saddest he's ever felt in his life.
Yeah.
He's just thinking about life, and then like he's a changed man. He's like, no, if I'm gonna live this shitty life, I'm gonna live it with Ellie. That's the life that we deserve. And then he becomes her dad, like overnight. It's incredible. Yeah, takes her shooting. She can't shoot for shit. Like, oh, this gun's broken. He shoots it like a champ.
Yeah,
asshole written on it. Shoots the hole. Love it. So charming. Like, this is like what we've been waiting to get to. Like the old curmudgeon. Finally with his little kid.
Contractors seem cool. Yeah, everybody did think we were cool.
Everybody loved him.
Which is a great callback to earlier in the episode when she's asking about the dam, and he tells her the reality of it, and she's like, you could have just lied. I would have believed you. Like, and then you get to the contractor bit, and it's like, yeah, he's gonna lie, and she'll believe him.
Yeah, he's gonna lie about a bunch of stuff. Yeah,
she's got that really great, like, the contractor when they're like heading up to the university.
Yeah, she really is. Again, like, I don't know how much she played like since then, but I know like she was told like don't play a lot. So like the fact that she's able to bring like a similar performance, that helps. Again, having the guy, we're out of focus, having the guy who made the game on board, but like she's bringing like such a presence to that character, like and again, like in different ways, by bringing some future stuff into the character now to kind of be its own character in a way, which is really great. Just loving both of them.
Yeah. I think you could say it every episode, you could say it all the time, it'll always be true. Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal were so perfectly cast, and they're doing such an incredible job.
Yeah.
And people are falling in love with the content because it's a great story, but also because these performers are making it come across and it feels real.
I'll tell you what, I wonder, because like Last of Us is like one of like the highest selling PlayStation games of all time, but I wonder if this is going to get people to play the game. And that game is considerably scarier than the show is.
Yeah.
That game is horrifying. There were so many zombies.
I think there's honestly, that audience will happen, but it's going to be pretty small because you got a lot of people who I think are going to be like my wife, my mother, my sister-in-law, who are all going to be like, well, I'm really glad they made this because I was never going to play that game.
Yeah.
And and I get it. Like, it's here, and I understand why people who played the game connect with it now.
Of course, yeah.
Like Megan completely is over the moon about the show and is like, I love it. I can't wait to watch more of it. And I'm like, that's why I was like, and she's like, no, I get it. The game must be incredible because this is the show, and you're saying it's quite accurate.
There are like 400 more headshots though,
so there's a lot more killing.
Because
that's how games are. But like,
no,
I think they've done such a good job. Like Craig Mazin talks about it on the official pod for this episode, where he's like, that in his mind, this is one of the most action-packed episodes if you consider emotional action relevant action.
Oh, 100%. Stuff happens in this episode.
If that's accurate, then this is an action-packed episode because it is full of emotional
action. If anything, this is like the most important episode that's happened so far.
Right.
In terms of of the emotions of where our characters are. Yeah. Like Joel is a different person from the beginning of this episode to the end of this episode.
Right.
A bat wound excluded.
Yes.
He's a emotionally.
Now he's a corpse.
Yeah, he's a corpse. He's a fallen off horses.
Oh God.
He goes. So where are they going?
They're going to the university where they think the Fireflies are.
Yeah. So they get a hint.
Which is where you get the monkeys. And something happened that I didn't even anticipate, which is, I know you were there too, because like we're watching it and my wife starts freaking out that they're gonna get infected monkeys happening, and like she was really getting nervous about it, like anticipating it. And I was like, I'm gonna tell you right now, don't worry about infected monkeys.
Kind of show.
That this is not gonna happen.
No, yeah, they have to. I forgot how much animal stuff happens in not just this game, but also the next game. But like, there's one of the most famous scenes from this game is another animal moment.
Yeah.
And they have to have that in this game.
They gotta.
We'll talk about it.
It's the way you come out with like levity after winter.
Yeah. That'll be fun to talk about it in a couple weeks. But yeah, so like they're doing some exploring in this place, and like the monkeys there. No clickers, luckily. But some bad boys show up. 5 bad boys show up with melee weapons.
5 bat boys.
5 bat boys, yeah. And Joel and Ellie they turn on stealth mode, they crouch down and they walk around, they got their hearing vision on from the game. They make it to the horse, but not fast enough before Joel has to get the whooping on.
Yeah.
And he does a good job. He gets a whooping on, but he also gets got. Oopsie poopsie, he gets stabbed by a broken baseball bat. I thought it was just like a cool looking knife blade, but having it be a bat, 100 times worse.
Because what happens is
you got splinters.
What happens is that Joel dodges the first hit, and the baseball bat hits the tree that Joel's staying next to, and it breaks. And then when they get into the next tussle, before Joel gets him around the neck, he got him in the gut.
The adrenaline, he didn't even notice it.
Right, until he drops him. Yeah. I like this choice. Craig Mazin talked about why they made this choice in comparison to the way that this comes about in the game, which in the game, for those who don't know, is that Joel falls from the second story
onto
and gets impaled on a rebar,
like
same spot, like same relative spot in the gut. And Craig Mazin just looked at it and said, like, in the terms of what they want to do with the show and where we're going next, he felt like that was a level of putting it into show context with the amount of violence that the show has had up to this point. When that it's just a different thing when, like, you're healing from bullet wounds and constant violent attacks throughout the game, to accept, yes, Joel heals from this rebar concussion, like fall from a second story and everything. And he was like, with the means that Ellie has at hand that we're going to see and like where they are at and everything, like Joel would not be worth anything in the context of the show if he fell from
this
a
6-year-old man
rebar like this. And they felt like this was a much more like natural, belonged, but got the same effect.
It was still like a surprise. Like, I knew it was coming, but like it happened in a different way.
Part of it, they also specified is that they wanted a wound that had the exact same impact and everything, but only came in one side and out one side, not all the way through the body.
Yeah.
Because they were like, that would be an easier one to
That's devastating.
be tended to with Ellie on hand and like have a chance of Joel's survival than the full-blown impaling.
Yeah. I do think the game one is like more impactful, but I do think this is still like,
it's shocking.
It is definitely more shocking. Again, like watching the side scenes, like it is kind of like a slow reveal as opposed to like the holy shit moment that just happened, but they are opposite sides of the same spectrum.
Yeah.
Of getting shocked.
Because I think it's definitely like I don't think anyone else besides you and I in the room saw that coming.
Yeah. 100%.
In that moment, that's where this was going.
Yeah.
Was with Joel getting injured like that.
And he pulled it out. I know he's not a rocket scientist, but man, that's bad news. That's bad news. Ouch. Splinters.
And so now we've got him falling off the horse and Ellie.
I can't do this without
you. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna get, I can't be alone. Which is Ellie's fear. Ellie's fear is ending up alone.
And then we get a reprise of the Depeche Mode song from episode 1, taking a ride with my best friend.
Yeah.
But it's a sad version of it.
Do you want to know who sang it?
Who?
Craig Mazin's daughter.
Oh,
his 18-year-old daughter.
She's got a great voice.
Recorded it, yeah.
Love it.
And so Craig, like, he wanted to put a little bit of that in there, but that's really cool.
It is.
Yeah,
I think she's got a good voice.
I think it's really good. Yeah, he was like, one of the reasons he did it is he's like, not to be like, I'm a proud dad, obviously, but my daughter's a really good singer, so I wanted to do this.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's a really good emotional beat. Like, obviously, like my wife, the other members of this household are chomping at the bit for the next episode because, like, holy God. And I get it because, like, I remember when this moment happened in the game and I was like, holy God.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and now we're fully going into DLC territory. For those who don't know, like, what kind of where we're heading next with the next episode is called Left Behind, and it's based off the DLC that was Left Behind.
It's a standalone.
It came.
Yeah.
It's actually. It came. I forgot. It's been way too long, but it's interspersed with this moment in time.
Yeah.
And I kind of forgot that because I was like, oh, how are we going to incorporate and everything? And I totally forgot that it was actually because I supplanted Ellie taking care of Joel into the game originally.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally forgot that, like, no, that's part of Left Behind, that she, like, the immediate aftermath of her trying to find medical supplies for Joel is also intercut with her flashback.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're getting in the next episode. So that's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
Super looking forward to it. Let's go through some of Phai's notes before we head into game spoiler section.
Absolutely.
So we'll go through some Phai's notes and we'll respond to them. Phai said Joel, like we said, is already too deep in his fatherly feelings. It's nice to have the other side, quote unquote, of how Joel deals with and shows his trauma. In the game, we see a version of him who copes mostly through anger and hiding his fear, but in the episode we get to see that fear on full display. He may not show it to Ellie, but he knows he is going to crack sooner or later. I think that is like the huge advantage of like what we're able to see in the range of performance in a show versus a video game, and what we get with like the interactions with Tommy specifically in this episode. Just, highlight Pedro Pascal, excellent performance again. Joel, what a layered and rich character,
like an onion.
Phai appreciated the detail of them stumbling upon the couple out in the middle of nowhere. Felt a little more believable to be pointed in the right direction by strangers than what happens in the game, where they just happen upon Tommy's exact location in the game.
That is true.
At the dam.
That is true. Yeah.
And also love the nod to the location verification method from the game. If you know, you know. Which is the confirm what your buddy said about where we are.
That is a great point, because like, again, like it was like a 10-minute video of like all the different side-by-side stuff from the episode, but like in the game it's just like, oh, you just find the dam and there's Tommy, he's just there. And I'm like, oh, it was pretty easy, wasn't it? Yeah. In the whole state, you just found them.
I remember when you're getting to the dam and like I didn't think Tommy was going to be there.
He opens the door,
all of a sudden Tommy's there, and I'm like, oh, we're doing this feat now. Again, like what the moment Druckmann said on like the official podcast episode, that like the dam wasn't the original intention for how this was supposed to go down. It was supposed to be them getting to Jackson. Like that they were going to be at the dam and then they were going to be found by the group. Again, like this show is doing what they wish they could have done with the game.
Makes sense.
And it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Jackson is remarkable. This is Phai's. It feels like we get to experience it in the game from hearsay, and then especially how we'll see it in part 2. For the keen-eyed and eared, there were plenty of Easter eggs to spot, and his personal favorite was Shimmer the horse. Phai's favorite performance was Pedro Pascal, of course.
Ooh, real quick, people are saying that they spotted a girl who looked like Dina.
We're gonna get to that.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that in game spoilers, because people who are just watching the show have no clue.
No, sure. I was gonna say it's a character from 2, but yeah. We'll talk about that.
So I will say,
I don't think it is.
No, on the official podcast, they said that's there, and they're like, that could be or couldn't be. Like they were like they didn't commit one way or another, and so I'm gonna say like it's not that's probably not the actress who will eventually play Dina. So I'm gonna say no. You just wanted like to play with the notion that that's happening.
Yeah, that'd be a little too much. Maybe.
Phai's favorite performance was Pedro. So far this season was his full confession about Ellie's immunity and Payne pleading to take care of her in his place was really impactful. While games are more used to show his tougher display of emotion, this more vulnerable side takes nothing away and only builds upon what we already know about him.
True.
The HBO companion podcast does a really good job of talking about the scene where Joel sees someone who looks like his daughter if she had a chance to grow up in the town square. We went over that a lot, but like, yes, I think that is one of the highlights, is this decision to show Sarah. It's the thing that makes the panic attacks really work for me, is this what it's happening to him, how it's translated on the screen. I think it's really, really impactful and really good.
I agree.
Tommy and Maria were perfect. They need only speak a few quick introductories for us to recognize who they are. More so for Maria. Again, I'm speaking for Phai.
Oh, I love the scene when Joel's like, can I talk to Tommy alone for family time? And then he grabs her hand like, she is family.
She's family.
I'm like, oh, Joel.
Congrats. Say congrats, Joel.
Say congrats, Joel.
Jesus, Joel.
Jesus, Joel.
Someone, Maria, also puts up a more tough and protective front out of a sense of responsibility for a community, and as we eventually learn, keeping true to the duties of motherhood, having lost a son named Kevin, who passed close to the time Sarah was lost. In that same scene, we get to see the conversation between Maria and Ellie, wherein Ellie learns about what Joel has survived. We highlighted that as well. I think it's, again, like, just as such a huge advantage of adaptation. Like, none of this, while some of these things never happened in the game, they feel completely and wholly true to the game because they were happening in moments that we couldn't possibly have seen.
Absolutely, yeah.
Phai's favorite scene is the confrontation between Joel and Ellie, shot for shot, line to line. Great performances that brought a tear to his eye. Sees a lot of people preferring the game version, but they convey believable and powerful, effective emotion in their own way. It was handled beautifully, and while we know what Joel will choose, I'm glad they gave him a whole night to really consider choosing to continue the journey. The university is also effectively in line with the game. We see Joel open up even more, confessing his true dream to be a singer. That's a great note. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
The singer and the astronaut and all that kind of stuff that's in this episode. I'm glad Phai brought that up.
I don't remember if he says he wants to be a singer in the first game. I don't remember.
I don't think he did.
Okay. That might be a part 2 thing, but that's, again, beautiful stuff. I love it.
Also, Ellie didn't bring up the astronaut stuff in the first game. That also comes in the second game, and they wanted to put it in later. Craig Mazin actually said that, like, when they were in early development on the show, they were still working on The Last of Us Part 2, and Neil Druckmann brought him in to show him something, and one of the things he showed him was a scene of Ellie talking about Sally Ride.
I love that.
And Craig Mazin was, like, latched onto that and, like, I really want that here. Like, I want to make that clear. And he's like, what's so important about it is Joel knows who she's talking about before she says, because he knows Ellie. He knows it's Sally Ride. He knows that's who she's admiring.
Sally Ride.
I really like the way the sheep ranch jokes, all that stuff is done really well. And she's like, one step closer to your dream, Joel.
God.
All of that was really, really funny.
Bacon, all that's left for perfect civilization.
Phai says, lastly, we end on the note I anticipated. The cliffhanger that he called Joel has been stabbed and is knocking on death's door, leaving Ellie to fend for herself with no sense of direction and some parts survival skills. I wonder how the general non-gaming audience is feeling right now.
Yeah.
Those are all Phai's notes that are not spoilers. So yeah, I think he's hit the nail on the head. I think something else I was thinking about is that I really do, I talked about when we were doing the first episode of this show that I was nervous about, like, making Joel too heroic. And I'm really glad that we've steered completely away from that. Like, Joel cares, but, like, Joel is right winger in mind and heart, in a way where he's very much about his alpha sensibility of family first and what he protects and what's his.
Yeah.
And that's, the way he looks at the community, the way he even jokes about it being communism, like,
oh God, that was such a great joke.
It's very like, I'm glad that it's very clear, like, the type of person Joel was in the society before and the type of person that he's been and how that rubs up against, like, how the people in Jackson want to live.
Yeah.
That the way that Joel's willing to do these things is a further sign of, like, his own violence. I think they did a good job of kind of brushing on the subject in the companion podcast a bit about that, having to walk this line and something that I think the show's done really well, partially by scaling back the violence of, like, might makes right, being the mentality, and that, like, Joel comes out on top so often because of his violent actions, especially when you look at the video game.
Yeah.
And having to say, like, try and steer away from, like, the ideology that's always the correct way, just because it's what's happening, just because it's what you're doing, just because it's what Joel does doesn't mean it's the right thing, and or the right way to survive, which is, again, why I really like that line with Tommy where he's like, there were other ways to survive, we just weren't good at them.
And you brought it up, but, like, in the last episode when he confronts the old man with the sniper, and he doesn't try to kill him first. I was like, that is him slowly becoming a better person.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right.
Well, that'll do it for non-game talk.
Another great episode.
Well, do you want to do the outro just in case?
No. We'll go into just as we usually do. We'll be like, hey, thanks for being here.
Thank you for stopping by.
We will say real quick, if you're a person who's only listening to this without having played the video game, you don't want to know what's coming, that's fine. You can totally bail out here. We're just going to say real quick, we are not back for episode 7 next week. We are going to be off for a week, and then we'll be back with a very big episode about episode 7 and 8.
Yes.
So we'll catch you then. And we are now moving into game spoilers.
Games
Let
on
me pull up Phai's notes to kick us off.
Kick it off.
Phai says, we get to see Dina briefly in the scene where Ellie and Joel are scarfing down food. Phai, I will say that they officially said on the companion podcast, which you also clearly listened to, that they are not committing to the fact that is Dina.
Half full listen approach on that.
Dina being Ellie's eventual romantic partner, having first witnessed Ellie stuffing her face as her first introduction to her. And then
here's the thing about that.
Phai also thinks real quick that it's funny that they seem to be killing off all of the OG voice actors.
That is, the thing about the Dina thing is so many people are noticing it. Then they had to have done it like on purpose without like even casting her, like making her Dina. You know?
I mean?
It's
not an accident. Like they admit that they put the spotlight on her because they want like the audience thinking in that direction, but they aren't saying definitively that was Dina.
It's also
they're saying like it's a girl who's interested in her, and it also puts interest in Ellie's brain.
Yeah,
but it's not necessarily supposed to be like, again, I'll go back to when we do see Dina later down the road, it's probably not that actress.
Yeah,
that probably isn't the moment.
Yeah, it's also 5 years in the future, so like they can recast it easy peasy. They'll just pull a Captain Newton on us, you know.
Sure.
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah. But like their official word is they didn't commit one way or another, so we don't need to commit one way or another. Yeah. They're playing with the idea of what we know is to come.
It was again just like they're doing so much less of the two stuff. Like I saw it, I'm like, wow, they're really doing it. Like they're really going hog on it. I don't know how much, because we kind of talked about it throughout the regular episode. Like there's not too much game stuff. Because I haven't played Left Behind, so I don't know what's going for the future. But like, besides the ending stab scene, which was a change from the game, I don't know how much game stuff there is to talk about. Because like a lot of this was the most adapted perfectly this episode.
Yeah. Again, like with the change in location and doing the things they wanted to do with the game originally, I think it's just like the benefit of what adaptation gives you, and I think they executed on it really well.
Oh yeah.
In terms of game spoilers, like where we're heading is, with Left Behind. I know you haven't played it all the way, so I'm not going to say too much about that. And it's been a long time for me as well. Again, having to remind myself, oh yeah, this is where this happens.
Yeah.
That it's it's interspersed of Ellie right after Joel falls off the horse and like what she's going to do and where she's going to get him. That's the opening of Left Behind. And then you're cutting back to Riley, and then you're cutting back to her looking for medical stuff for Joel, and you're cutting back to her and Riley.
Yeah.
And, so episode's probably going to flow pretty much exactly like that.
I have to imagine.
I imagine it's just going to be a really well-formed version of the DLC, more or less.
Yeah. Man. And the DLC is like only a couple hours long. So like you just, again, cut the action out of that, and then you just retelling that exact story.
Right. And then after that, David,
awful human being. I'm so excited because again, like the next 3 episodes are just like kind of just bad times all around, but like it's entertaining bad times. Like, man,
yeah. So
Ellie's gonna go through some shit. Unfortunately,
it's gonna be really interesting because it definitely does feel like I have to imagine that all the David stuff is in episode 8.
Yeah,
but
you know what?
We have the same director for 8 and 9, which makes it feel like they're closer in pairing to each other.
Do we know if 9 is an extended length episode like the first one was?
No, I don't know.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was.
Sure.
I have to imagine that we might meet David, kind of like we met Henry and Sam at the end of an episode. We might meet David at the end of the next episode.
Oh, yeah. I think so.
Like their first meeting, and then like. Yeah, because like you only need to do that in one episode. Like,
no, you pack David all into one episode, but like it's our second to last episode, and I just think it's interesting that we have the same director for the pair, just like we did for 4 and 5.
I wonder if they'll spend a lot of time with David, and then it will bleed over into the finale. But then you'd be doing a lot of stuff in the finale because you'll be doing the end of David and the hospital stuff. Yeah, I think he might just be one episode.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
it's going to be really interesting to see how the rest of this plays out. I'm excited to do it. I'm excited that we're going to come back and have like all of Left Behind and all of the stuff to talk about, probably.
Cannibals and clickers all day, every day.
A lot of great stuff ahead.
Jesus, Joel.
I'll highlight real quick Phai. Also, you can find him on TikTok at Sugar Daddy Loot Drops. That's
Sugar Daddy Loot Drops.
LUTE Loot. Sugar Daddy Loot Drops.
Like
and the reason why I highlight that is because this week Phai put up a TikTok, and it's regarding the third game's story with heavy The Last of Us 2 spoilers. So if you're a person who's played through The Last of Us 2 and you want to hear about Phai's thoughts on a potential Last of Us 3, go check him out on Sugar Daddy Loot Drops on TikTok, where he gave a whole breakdown of where he thinks things are going.
I love it. I will do that.
Thanks, Phai. Thanks for doing that from far away.
Thank you.
Here in spirit. That'll do it, I think.
Absolutely.
We don't have a lot more to cover, so we're just going to be, again, I will say for the audience that has stuck around, we are skipping next week. So this show will have one time where it didn't go weekly, which is actually pretty good for us. And we will be back for episodes 7 and 8 in one big go right before the finale.
Big meaty,
and then
episode.
And then we'll be back for the finale, and that'll be it, friends, for The Last of Us. Fake Nerds Watch.
And then it'll probably be 2 years or 3 years for that next one.
And that's okay, because that gives me time to actually play all of The Last of Us Part 2.
Also a really long sequel.
Which has me really intimidated, because I'm terrified of not liking it. Because this has only reminded me how much I really like that original game. And then I love this more because it improves where the game falls short.
Yeah.
What an incredible show. I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased with this adaptation. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'll be honest, like I wasn't worried that was going to be a good show with Craig Mazin, but like it is like better than I thought it was going to be. I was kind of expecting it to be like, man, this is pretty good. But like this really is like probably the best video game adaptation we've ever gotten. Yeah. Like honestly, like this is just a great show. Like if this were just an original show, this would still.
I mean, that's why so many people are watching it. Like it wouldn't. It doesn't. To them, it doesn't matter. It just is a great show.
Yeah, and hopefully this is the beginning of great adaptations. Just treat it with respect. That's all you got to do.
All right. So for Fake Nerds Watch, by the time that we're back with our episode 7 and 8 discussion, it also means that we're coming up on dropping an episode about The Mandalorian. We're probably going to be bi-weekly on that one. It's what we used to do.
We'll see how good that show is.
Sometimes we do it in 4-episode chunks. Sometimes we do it in 2-episode chunks. We'll see what happens. Yeah. It depends on how ourselves and our 2 co-hosts from the Fake Nerd podcast are vibing with the show. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Right this moment, the first episode of Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 1 has been reviewed on Fake Nerds Watch. That's with our friend Brandon and Cookie from Just a Little Podcast. Mm-hmm. Brandon's going hard on the Star Trek shows once again, so he's over there doing that, which is great.
That phasers to fun.
We've got some pause menu. There's some pause menu stuff that's come out lately about video gaming history and our quarterly. And we are also having more episodes come out soon. That's with our good friend Ben Magnick over there. We've got a lot of special things coming out. There's some animation stations ahead. Ryan hinted at Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur that he and I have been watching.
It's true.
So check that out. If you've been into Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, there's going to be a discussion on those first 6 episodes soon. Ben and I are also getting together to talk about Sonic Prime. Those are both on Animation Station. And then we've got the singular reviews of the Scream franchise. They're going to come out in batches soon after this episode's out. So Scream 1 and 2, Scream 3 and 4, and then Scream 5 and franchise rankings before Scream 6. So if you're interested in all that, that's all there. And of course, the big movie that came out recently, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, that's also around. So check that out on the channel. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And if you want to get in touch with us personally, I'm Sparkz Witty on Instagram and Twitter. You can find me there at Sparkz Witty, SPARKZ Witty. I will be out of the country for a while.
He's going to be in
see you later.
Another country.
In France.
France.
All right. And Ryan, where can they find you?
You can find me just praying that those little ugly monsters, the stalkers, eventually will show up at DJ Tony Snark 616. I mean, they creep around corners. That's terrifying.
On a timetable long enough for knowing we're going past this first season. I'm sure they do.
Oh, of course. I know. I just want them. I just want it.
All right, friends. Have a good break. We'll see you next time for episode 7 and 8. Until then, stay fake nerds.